Well, thank you very much, and particularly to the organizers for allowing us to present today. I know as I finish up this session, I'm the person keeping everyone from lunch, and so that's a high bar, and so I better have some exciting results to talk about for the group here to keep your interest. So we have been developing a light-based treatment system for major degenerative diseases. Our focus has been with the Valeda light delivery system shown in the bottom left for age-related macular degeneration, particularly the early to intermediate dry form of the disease. What I'm very happy to say is that about 3 weeks ago, on November 4th, the FDA authorized this breakthrough Valeda therapeutic for dry AMD as the first one to improve vision in patients with intermediate dry AMD. The results were part of a de novo application that focused on our 2-year LightSight 3 trial, which was used to support the Valeda de novo submission with specific controls. We saw an improvement and maintained about 6-letter gain over the course of the 21-month final dosing period, and then the patients exited at month 24. We had a very significant p-value at month 21, a p-value of 0.0036, showing a benefit in the PBM treatment versus the sham treatment group. This is the first authorized FDA treatment for dry AMD using photobiomodulation, and we are already targeting the retinal community as a rollout in the 4th quarter of this year. This is a non-invasive and safe therapy for patients with dry AMD. The Valeda is an office-based device that does a treatment a little over 4 minutes. We do a series of 9 treatments over the course of a flexible 3 to 5 weeks, and that usually gives us sustained benefits out to 4 months. We have been selling the Valeda commercially in OUS and Europe, predominantly in Latin America, for the last 4 years. We now have, for those series of 9 treatments, that series, we have patients that have gone through over 27,000 treatment series and delivered over almost 650,000 individual treatments. So we're very happy that our U.S. patients and our U.S. doctors now have the opportunity to treat patients with the Valeda light delivery system. So in the U.S. market, as we all know, it's about 20 million people. We're targeting mainly those patients before they get geographic atrophy. So these are patients that are typically about 5 years after diagnosis when they're starting to lose vision. But these are patients that have viable tissue. The targets for the Valeda light delivery system are mitochondrial-based, and we have opportunity to come in earlier for these patients and treat them. The 3 wavelengths that we use each have a specific mechanism. We use far yellow, which is 590, which allows the increase in nitrous oxide synthesis and allows local vasodilation, improvement in local oxygen and nutrient delivery. The 2 other wavelengths target cytochrome C oxidase and electron transport. Both of them are important and vital. One of them allows the oxygen binding, which helps restore the proton gradient. The other one helps shuttle electrons in. So we think all 3 wavelengths have very unique and specific reasons, so our multiple wavelength approach was designed early to address some of the underlying etiologies of the disease. We're also very happy to say that as of January 1, we have a temporary CPT code established for PBM for therapy for retinal illness. The typical patient will be a 67-year-old patient with dry AMD in both eyes, and the patient has some vision loss. This is just a temporary code, and we anticipate that, at least for the first 2 years in the United States, it will be patient pay as we continue to do our post-market and adoption of the product in the U.S. market. So a little bit about the summary on the 24-month data. The patient had a design where we had a sham treatment. Each patient went through the little over 4-minute procedure. The sham had 2 of the 3 wavelengths active. We turned off the near infrared. We reduced by 10 and 100x. So that it really was an active control. It's still very bright. We couldn't lower it so much that it would be a very pale yellow or a rosé. The patients went through the 9 rounds or 9 sessions of treatments over 3 to 5 weeks. They did this over 6 rounds over the course of 24 months, separated by about 4 months. And because we had this run-in early with fairly good eye patients, We did have 2 co-primaries, month 13 and month 21, and then safety at the end of the study. 100 subjects, 144 eyes were qualified. Typically, these patients had started vision loss of 2032 to 2100. We did exclude patients that had central involving GA in their central 1 millimeter, their fovea. The patient profile was about 75 years of age, 4.9 years from diagnosis. We did stratify by arid supplements, which was about 86% of the patients that were stable. The starting baseline score was around 70, and in fact, 70% of the patients had better vision than 20/40. So these are eyes that were fairly good, but they did have a predominance of intermediate patients, and they had moderate to high risk for progression. And so these eyes were followed for over the 2 years. Duke was our imaging center that did qualify the patients for enrollment and did imaging at the beginning and the end of every round of treatment. Oops, let me go back one. These are the results from the best corrected visual acuity. You can see after the first round of treatment of 1 month, we started to see some increase in BCVA. By the second round of treatment, we were now at a line as the modified intent to treat group mean. And you can see we maintained that over the course of 2 years while we continued to see a separation over the 2 years between that and the sham group. We maintained at 13, 21, 24 months about 6.2, and 5.6 letters is the mean. And what you also see is that in these patients, not only did we see improvement in letter gain, but the patients in the sham, we saw a reduction in vision in about 7% at month 13, and by month 21 and 24, that increased to 15 and 18% of patients that had lost at least 6 letters or more, where we maintained fairly stable vision loss, 5 and 7% in the PBM group. Finally, I want to show this one. Now, this was not pre-specified, but as part of the safety, we did follow the progression of those patients over the 2 years. And in the sham group at 1 year or 13 months, about 10% of the patients had progressed to stage 4. Category 4 were only 1% in the PBM. By the end of the 2-year trial, 24% of the patients had progressed to stage 4 with incident GA versus 7%. And so we have seen other indications of slowing down or reductions in the biomarkers, and this will be, again, the study was powered for BCVA, not anatomical, but I think this is indicating where we want to go next with the Valeda light delivery system. Finally, I just want to end that while it's obvious that we want to treat these patients early, we've done now 4 years of work in Europe, and we did work with a company that had access to the NHS healthcare costs for patients that had AMD all the way through going blind and costlessness for being legally blind. When we look at a cost-effective plane, you'd like to be on the right side of the cost-effective plane, and even better, you'd like to be below the zero line showing that you're saving healthcare costs. And you can see at about 0.8, and below the line is where the Valeda quality of life improvements are. This is also part of the process of looking at how we can impact if we treat early patients with dry AMD. And on the left side, we looked at using all the published literature, the progress of a patient starting at 75 years of age, like in our trial, and starting with about 70 letters, how over the course of their life they're going to lose their vision. And then we can incorporate that the model where we look at our clinical trials. And when we see that, what you can see is a shift to the right in the quality of life in terms of the slowing of rate of loss of vision. To put that into even more, I think, very stark contrast, if you look on the right, this is basic standard care, with green being patients that have AMD. Gray is when they get geographic atrophy, and when they progress to become legally blind, that's in the red. What you see on the left is a PBM treatment, and you can clearly see the shift in the number of patients down that would ultimately become legally blind. So I think this is very obvious for everyone. If we treat early, you can change the trajectory of disease, and I hope that we will be able to do that now with this and other treatments that are in development. Bottom line is I think that we have a huge opportunity to have impact on doctors and patients and healthcare providers if we treat early in the disease. The Valeda light delivery system looks like it can improve the quality of life of these patients and reduce healthcare costs. And so if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to talk to you after the meeting. But thank you very much for staying to listen to me, and appreciate the FDA and all our patients and doctors that have been working with us over the past 10 years to get this on the market. Thank you.